Hello everyone, this is Darcinovia here. This is my review on Star Wars Bore 1. Why do I call it Bore 1? Well, because the movie's fucking boring. Wow. Never have I watched a film in the Star Wars universe where after I watched it, I still don't remember the characters' names, despite me watching the movie twice. Force Awakens, I knew who Rey, Finn, Kylo Ren's, and Poe's names were after my first viewing. The first viewing of this movie, I thought it was okay. My second viewing, I couldn't finish it because I was bored. My third viewing, I had to force myself to watch this movie. I don't understand how this is considered the best Star Wars movie since Empire. I don't understand how. And people saying, oh, this is better than the prequels. Are you that desperate to jab the prequels that you're just going to say this is the best Star Wars prequel? This movie is a joke. This movie is so boring. It doesn't even feel like a Star Wars movie. It feels like there's two movies in this film. And the fact that the reshoots happen, it's so obvious. Honestly, it's like the movie's all over the place. Rogue One was a disaster. About 60% of the film having to be reshot. And then the movie that we essentially get two films in one. Like Geoff Edwards, I didn't even like his Godzilla movie. I thought it fucking sucked. It was boring. I wasn't excited when I heard he was directing Star Wars. Say what you want about Force Awakens. At least it's more competently made from a filmmaking perspective. At least the score, though the worst one that John Williams has done for Star Wars, is leagues better than this. At least Force Awakens, the pacing isn't so god-awfully slow that you freaking are bored. Yet Force Awakens had pacing issues too. Everything went by so quickly that the movie couldn't catch its breath. Rogue One is so fucking slow, it's boring. You just want the movie would be over. Not to mention, name a single character in this film besides Jen. If you even know unless you forgot who she was too, because this is how forgettable the entire cast was. The concept of Rogue One was a good one, but the execution was terrible. It feels like the filmmakers do not understand the Star Wars universe. It's like the terminology they use, for in law, like this one at one scene when they're reading all the offenses that Jen Uso committed. It's like this movie has such a disconnect from Star Wars. It doesn't feel like a Star Wars movie at times. It feels like they're inserting real-world politics into this movie. That it takes me out of the movie. People say The Force Awakens had a lot of SJW propaganda, that it was full of a bunch of SJW horseshit. This is much worse in that regard. Force Awakens, at least the movie, you can watch it, and it's not a good movie. No. I don't really like it, but I can tell you that it's a better film than this. At least Force Awakens, I remember who the characters' names are. And that's the problem with Rogue One. Unlike Force Awakens, which has the luxury of having The Last Jedi and what the fuck they're calling Episode 9, these characters are in one movie. And the film's job is to tell the story of these unknown characters, so when people walk out of the theater, they could actually be amazed at how good these characters are. I'm amazed how bad these characters are. I mean, not a signal one of these characters are memorable. This movie had so many characters. Like, they barely talk to each other. Not to mention, these characters are all over the place in terms of their motivations. You don't know anything about them from the first time you see them until the last time you see them. Jen Uso, you have something for her, but you don't know anything beyond that, really. There's no character development for any of these characters. They're all the same. They're stagnant. They're one-dimensional. And that's the problem with this movie. Every one of these characters are like archetypes of other characters. Oh, you have this Asian guy who's blind, who's somehow really good with his staff. You have this Middle Eastern looking guy for some reason who's good with a machine gun. You have this white dude who who's fought since he's been 6 years old. And am I the only one that's really sick and tired of this forced diversity? I mean, for God's sake, if this is about the Death Star plans, why is not a single alien in this movie as part of the main cast? You're telling me humans were the only ones that fought in the Star Wars galaxy to free themselves from the Empire? You're telling me that you didn't have a single alien character of the entire cast? Oh, but we'd have to have special effects. We could have to have CGI. Oh my God, that's so horrible. It's like all you had is humans in the cast. Considering that Star Wars is such a big fucking universe, where's the aliens? I mean, ever since Disney took over, Star Wars has been about this diversity, when in the Star Wars universe, it isn't the same as our world. Where if you see an Asian guy in Star Wars, or black, or white, or whatever, they're human. They're considered one fucking species. Why don't we have a Twi'lek in the cast, a Wookiee, or some other alien creature? Why is it that it focused exclusively on the humans? I thought you guys cared about diversity. Apparently you don't. I mean, why is it to this very day, if you really care about diversity, which you're full of shit, why have the past two movies, why has the protagonist been a white, British, Burdette character? Why not have a dark-skinned protagonist? Oh no, you guys can have that. I know I'm ranting about nonsense, but this movie itself is nonsense. There's times where I feel like, is this like terrorist propaganda, or is this a Star Wars movie? It didn't help the fact that the writing staff were SJW fucktards. It's like, it feels like the people who were involved in this movie had no idea what Star Wars is, even on a basic level. Like the forced cameos of Darth Vader and Grand Moff Tarkin. What was the point of them being in the movie? What was the point? You could not have gone without having them in the movie, or at least have Grand Moff Tarkin have a short cameo with no dialogue. It's like they're so desperate to capture the nostalgia for the original trilogy. It's like Darth Vader's purpose to be in this film was nothing more than fan service. It doesn't serve the story. Oh, we must have Darth Vader take out his lightsaber and kill some rebels. Because, you know, that's the only scene in the entire movie that's, like, memorable. Everything else is forgettable. Do you think anyone gave it two shits about these rejects that you see here? Oh, yeah, I shed a tear when that Imperial pilot died, or when that Asian dude died, or when that one guy who has a fucking, for some reason, has this Gatling-like gun in the Star Wars universe. It's like these idiots that fucking make these movies think, oh, we'll just add a fucking gun for that is so powerful that it could kill a bunch of stormtroopers at once. It makes no sense. Who cares? It's off to sell toys. Ugh. And it's like the Death Star, being tested before the events of A New Hope is a plot hole within itself. The entire galaxy should know about the Death Star after it was used not once but twice in this movie. And don't get me started on the retardation of that one scene towards the end of the movie where the rebels are arguing over the existence of the Death Star despite eyewitnesses. They don't, they don't go to them and ask them to confirm it's true. It's like the characters in this movie are brain dead idiots. I swear, they're so stupid. It's like the only reason a lot of people think this is better than The Force Awakens is the fact either A, they hated The Force Awakens, like I did, or B, you don't understand basic filmmaking. I don't claim to be an expert, but I do know a poorly made film from a well-made film. Force Awakens is far from a well-made film, but you know what? Comparing this to Force Awakens, this makes The Force Awakens look like Citizen Kane. This is how bad this movie is. I didn't even realize how bad this film was until I watched Force Awakens with a more open mind, a critical mind. And you know what? I see the good things in Force Awakens. So a lot of the stuff you see in that film has not been done before in the Star Wars universe. This movie, it's a different story. It's not a remake, so it's better. Just because it's not a remake, first off, what new concepts does Rogue One introduce to the Star Wars universe? Force Awakens introduced a crossguard lightsaber, on the big screen. We saw Force pull. We saw Kylo Ren be able to stop a blaster shot in midair and be able to hold it while he's having a conversation. We saw Kylo Ren be able to mind probe someone. Force Awakens, even though I think it's worthless for the most part, it did add some new and interesting things to the Star Wars, cinematic universe. That's currently canon. I don't really like the movie that much, but I do acknowledge some of the good aspects. Rogue One, what good aspect does it add to the Star Wars universe? You get to see Darth Vader do some cool shit for like 30 seconds. Okay. So, here's another thing. The ending of Rogue One just creates plot holes in A New Hope. It makes Leia and Darth Vader look like complete fucking idiots. It's like, this movie, it doesn't connect to Episode 4 very well. It really doesn't. I mean, comparing it Rebel Dawn, which is the last book of the Han Solo trilogy, that is a great example of how to connect, a pre-Episode 4 story to A New Hope. That story connects so well. Same thing with Dark Forces, along all the other materials that involve the Death Star plans. It doesn't feel jarring. This movie is so jarring. It's like you're going to tell me that these characters are the only reason Luke was able to destroy the Death Star. It's like I feel like this movie undercuts, the characters from the original trilogy, their achievements, the characters, in the Battle of Yavin. I feel like this undermines the Battle of Yavin. Oh, Garen Uso designed a weakness in the Death Star to give the rebellion a chance to destroy it. It's like, why didn't Garen Uso just rig the fucking thing and have it blow up the first time it fired? It's like, it is so retarded. You're telling me we needed a whole movie to explain a fucking exhaust port? It doesn't matter that Luke fucking used the Force, to destroy the Death Star. It was Garen Uso along with his forgettable daughter, along with her forgettable band, that helped saved the day. They're the reason why the rebellion didn't lose the Battle of Yavin. I find that ludicrous. This movie didn't need to be made. We didn't need a whole movie explaining something in the opening crawl of A New Hope. Had we had a smaller cast of characters and would spend more time developing them instead of having these characters act like complete dumbasses, it's like this movie was so concerned, at least more concerned with, having a bunch of stupid action scenes, the worthless one that don't advance the story, than having us learn anything new about these characters and why they do what they do. Jen Uso, why is she fighting for the rebellion? Oh, because of her father. Okay, why is she fighting afterwards? Why does she care? Why does Caston care? Why does that Asian guy care? Why does that guy with the laser gun care? It's like all these characters that you see in these movies, you don't know why they're doing what they're doing. Like, character motivations is important to make a good character. An example, Episode 4. Why did Luke want to fight for the rebellion? Because his aunt and uncle were killed by the Empire, he lost Ben, and he wanted to make a difference. That's simple. Why did Han Solo, go back to save Luke? Because Luke was his friend, and he had a conscience. Why did Leia, fight against the Empire? Well, you don't learn much of why, but you get enough. Alderaan gets destroyed. She has a good enough motivation to fight against the Empire. None of these characters, with the exception of Jen, have a good reason to oppose the Empire. You don't know why. And people's like, oh, you don't need to learn everything about in these movies. Well, it's a war movie, for God's sake. You don't need to do a fucking elaborate, explanation of why these characters are doing what they do. It's just, there's plenty of time they had to develop these characters to make you care about them more and actually like them as characters, but you don't. Ask the average person, who do they remember in Rogue One? I bet you they wouldn't be able to tell you. The only thing that people remember in Rogue One is Darth Vader towards the end of the movie, at the very end, killing a bunch of rebels. It was a good scene. I will not lie. I love that scene. In my opinion, it was the best scene of the whole movie. And it's also one of the best scenes of the entire franchise, in my opinion. But is that the reason to watch Rogue One? When you could easily go on YouTube to watch that scene? I wanted to like this movie. I don't hate it, but I wanted to like this movie. But I just can't overlook its flaws. It's boring. It's really boring. Force Awakens is a bad movie, but boring is not one of them. I'd rather watch Attack of the Clones, which is one of the worst Star Wars movies, than watch this movie. Again, Bore 1 is boring in every sense of the word. Like, the action scenes, they look cool, but that's all they are. There's no substance behind those scenes. This movie's all style and no substance to back it up. Rogue One gets a 1 out of 5 stars. I don't think it's that good. I think it's vastly overrated. I think it's a terrible movie that will not stand the test of time. It's forgettable, just like Force Awakens. But Force Awakens has something that this movie doesn't have. If The Last Jedi is a good movie, that'll make Force Awakens look a bit better. This movie will not. it will be for a forgotten piece of trash, just like every other movie that comes out today. I put this movie in the same level as the Transformers movie. All of them, including the first one. It's trash. It's a boring piece of trash. That's it. I'm done. This isn't your safe space if you're a fanboy. Sorry, Disney fanboys, but I'm not going to blindly praise these movies. This is a honest review. May the force be with you, and next time, let's be more positive, because I'm going to talk about Star Wars: A New Hope and review that movie. That's why I got these movies out of the way, because I want to talk about the Star Wars movies that I love. Yes, I even love Attack of the Clones, and the Phantom Menace. Bite me. Have a good day, everyone, and may the force be with you. Always.